Before there were skyscrapers or nations, before the world had kings and crowns as we know them, there was Rome. It began with nothing, just dirt, stone, and ambition. But through blood, brilliance, and unshakable discipline, it became an empire that stretched from the cold hills of Britain to the sands of Egypt. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, let's walk through the rise and the quiet fall of the Roman Empire. Before there was marble, there was dust. Before there were emperors, there were shepherds. And before there was Rome, there was only the quiet hum of the Tiber River, winding its way through soft green hills beneath the Italian sun. Imagine that landscape, wild, untouched, filled with the scent of pine and earth. The year is somewhere around 1000 BC. Small tribes scatter across the peninsula. They live simply, trading with one another, building huts of wood and straw, and worshipping nameless gods that dwell in the forests and streams. Life is quiet, humble, fragile. In the distance, smoke rises from the Etruscan hills, an older, wiser civilization to the north. Their artisans carve bronze, their kings wear crowns. To the south, the Greeks have settled along the coast, bringing their temples, their myths, their knowledge of the stars. Between these two worlds lies a small patch of land, 7 gentle hills overlooking a river, unnoticed, unimportant, and yet destined to change everything. This is where it will begin. Not with glory, not with war, but with survival. The early Romans are farmers and herdsmen, people of the soil. They build small homes on the Palatine Hill, near the shallow crossing of the Tiber. The river gives them trade and defense. The hills give them safety. The land gives them purpose. Days pass in the rhythm of ancient life. Children play among olive trees. Men till the fields, their hands rough with labor. Women carry water, bake bread, and keep the hearth alive. The world moves slowly, as if even time itself has not yet learned to rush, but something stirs in these people. Something deep, unseen, a hunger for more. They look beyond their hills, beyond their farms, and wonder what lies across the river. In that quiet curiosity lies the first heartbeat of an empire. Now close your eyes and imagine the sounds of that world. The murmur of wind through the cypress trees, the faint call of birds echoing through the valley, the steady creak of wooden carts rolling over dirt paths, the rhythm of hammers shaping stone. Rome is not yet built, but its soul is taking shape. Generations pass and the village grows. Trade begins with nearby tribes. Markets appear along the riverbanks. Stories are told of heroes, of gods, of destiny. Among those stories is the legend of 2 brothers, Romulus and Remus, said to be born of a god, raised by a wolf, and destined to found a city. Whether myth or memory, it captures the spirit of Rome, fierce, untamed, and unyielding. The people believe they are chosen, not by luck, but by will. They begin to organize, to build, to rule. The first kings emerge, leaders who guide them, priests who bless them, warriors who defend them. The huts become houses, the paths become streets, and the scattered tribes begin to call themselves one people, Romans. The world around them begins to notice. To the north, the Etruscans teach them the art of writing and building. To the south, the Greeks inspire their gods and architecture. Rome absorbs it all. Every craft, every idea, every tradition, shaping it into something entirely its own. The city becomes a mirror of the world, a blend of cultures, ideas, and ambition. As the centuries roll forward, Rome begins to stand out. Its people are tough, hardened by wars, bound by loyalty, obsessed with honor. They build temples to Jupiter, Mars, and Venus. They celebrate victories with festivals and sacrifices. They see the favor of the gods not in wealth, but in strength. Still, beyond the borders, the world remains vast and uncertain. Barbarian tribes move across Europe. Carthage rises in Africa. The great kingdoms of the East flourish in silk and gold. And yet, from its small corner of Italy, Rome watches, waits, and learns. The land shapes them. The climate, mild yet unpredictable, teaches resilience. The soil, fertile yet demanding, rewards discipline. Every hardship becomes a lesson. Every loss becomes a reason to grow stronger. Rome's people are not the most numerous, nor the most advanced, but they are the most determined. As twilight falls over the hills, torches flicker in the growing city. You can almost hear the echoes of 1,000 voices, merchants bargaining, soldiers training, priests chanting beneath the open sky. The Tiber glows like molten gold under the fading light. Smoke curls from chimneys, rising softly into the stars. Somewhere in the distance, a child gazes toward the horizon, unaware that he stands on the soil of destiny. In that gaze lies the dream of empire, the dream of roads that will span continents, of languages that will shape nations, of laws that will last millennia. But for now, Rome sleeps. It is still young, still learning what it means to be great. The city hums softly under the night air, its people resting beneath a sky they believe the gods themselves command. And as the moon climbs higher, the whispers of history begin to stir, the soft rustle of a world awakening. Because from these quiet hills and humble farms, from this blend of myth and reality, from this unshakable will to endure, something eternal is about to rise, something that will outlive kingdoms, empires, and centuries, something that will be remembered. Long after its stones have turned to dust, Rome, as dawn rises over the 7 hills, the city of Rome begins to stir. Smoke from morning fires curls gently into the golden air. The sound of hooves echoes down cobbled paths. In the markets, traders unpack baskets of olives, figs, and bread. Children laugh as soldiers march past. Men, hardened by battles fought in distant fields. The Republic has begun. For centuries, Rome has cast off its kings and chosen a new way of life, rule by the people, or at least by those who call themselves citizens. 2 consuls lead the state, guided by the Senate, a council of old men, wise or cunning, depending on the day. It is not perfect, but it is order. And order is what the Romans cherish most. In this republic, the idea of Rome becomes larger than any one man. Every citizen is taught to live by virtues, virtue, courage, and duty to the state. The army marches not just for conquest, but for honor. Discipline is the heartbeat of the republic, and the legions, tens of thousands of soldiers, are its lifeblood. Rome expands first through Italy, then beyond. The wars of the early republic forge its spirit. Against the Etruscans, against the Samnites, against any who dare to threaten their peace. Each victory brings new land, new allies, and new confidence. But power, like the sea, never stays still. It always hungers for more. And so Rome's eyes turn outward to the shining waters of the Mediterranean, where the greatest rival of all waits across the waves, Carthage. Carthage, the city of merchants. Rich, vast, and proud, its fleets command the sea. Its generals command fear. The 2 powers collide in a series of wars that will shape the destiny of the world. In the Second Punic War, a name rises like thunder, Hannibal. He is brilliant, daring, and relentless. From Spain, he leads his army and his elephants across the frozen Alps into Italy. For years, he devastates the Roman countryside, defeating army after army. At Cannae, he slaughters tens of thousands in a single day. Rome trembles but does not fall. The Romans endure as they always do. They adapt, learn, and wait. In time, a new general, Scipio Africanus, takes the war to Carthage itself. There, on the plains of Zama in 202 BC, the 2 titans meet. Hannibal is defeated. Carthage burns, and Rome stands as mistress of the Western world, but victory brings change. The Republic grows rich, too rich. Gold pours into the city. Slaves flood the markets. Senators build villas that glitter with marble and mosaics. The simple virtues of old Rome fade beneath luxury and pride. The poor grow poorer. The gap between citizen and ruler widens. Then comes ambition. Generals seek power not for Rome, but for themselves. Marius reforms the army, giving soldiers loyalty not to the Senate, but to their commander. Sulla seizes the city with force, setting a dark example. And from this chaos, one man rises higher than all the rest, Julius Caesar. Brilliant, fearless, adored by his troops. He conquers Gaul, crosses rivers, and writes his own legend with every step. The Senate fears him, yet cannot stop him. In 49 BC, he makes a fateful choice. He crosses the Rubicon River with his army, an act of defiance that will change history. Civil war erupts. Brother against brother, Roman against Roman. When the dust settles, Caesar stands victorious. The Republic lies shattered at his feet. He is declared dictator for life, the master of Rome. But even masters are mortal. On the Ides of March, 44 BC, the Senate rises against him. Blades flash beneath the marble pillars. Caesar falls, whispering words that echo through eternity. Et tu, Brute? The man who conquered the world is undone by his own, but the Republic cannot heal. Chaos returns. New powers rise, Mark Antony, the loyal general, and Octavian, Caesar's young heir. The two join forces only to turn against each other in time. Antony, drawn to the east, joins Cleopatra, the queen of Egypt. Octavian, calm and calculating, prepares for war. Their final clash comes at Actium in 31 BC, a storm of ships and fire. When it ends, Antony and Cleopatra are gone, and Octavian rules alone. The Republic is no more. A new world begins. He takes a new name, Augustus, the Exalted One. The first emperor of Rome. Under Augustus, peace returns. The doors of war are closed. But the Western Empire, exhausted and fragile, can no longer stand. Invaders pour across its borders. Goths, Vandals, Huns. In 410 AD, the Visigoths sack Rome itself, the Eternal City brought low. Decades later, in 476 AD, the last emperor, Romulus Augustulus, is overthrown. The Western Empire falls, and yet Rome does not die. It becomes something else, a memory, a spirit, an inheritance. The Eastern Empire, known as Byzantium, carries its flame for another millennium. Its art, its faith, its wisdom preserve the heart of the old world. Even now, centuries later, Rome still lives. In the languages we speak, the laws we follow, the roads we walk, the stories we tell. The very word civilization carries its echo. So as night falls, imagine those ruins under a silver moon, the arches, the broken temples, the whispers of history woven through the wind. Listen closely, and you might still hear them. The steady footsteps of legions, the soft voice of poets, the hum of a city that believed it could outlast time itself. Because in many ways, it did. Rome was not just a place. It was an idea. And ideas, unlike empires, never truly fall asleep. There comes a moment in every great story when the rise begins to slow, when the same strength that built an empire begins to weigh it down. For Rome, that moment did not arrive with thunder or collapse, but with quiet changes, almost invisible at first. The roads still gleamed beneath the sun. The legions still marched in perfect formation. The emperors still sat upon marble thrones. But somewhere beneath the splendor, something had shifted. The Republic had long vanished, and in its place stood a vast machine. Beautiful, organized, unstoppable, and slowly, unknowingly, cracking from within. Rome had conquered everything, but in doing so, it had conquered itself. The people who once fought for survival now lived in comfort. The virtues that once defined the city, discipline, simplicity, courage, were fading beneath the weight of luxury. Bread and games filled the Colosseum, while the Senate debated not duty, but pleasure. The empire had become too large, too complex, too heavy for any one man to hold. And yet, the facade remained flawless. From Spain to Syria, the Roman banner still waved. Gold flowed into the capital. Markets buzzed, aqueducts sang with water, ships carried spices from faraway lands. But behind the beauty, the balance was breaking. The soldiers who once fought for glory now fought for pay. The borders stretched endlessly, demanding more and more men to defend them. Taxes grew harsher, villages emptied. The farms that once fed the empire fell silent as people fled to the cities, searching for safety. The heart of Rome began to grow tired. It was during this time that emperors came and went with unsettling speed. Some ruled for years, others for days. Each promised renewal. None could stop the slow unraveling. Power became fragile, passed not through merit but through murder. The empire that had once been built on order now lived in chaos, disguised as peace, and then came a ruler who understood what was happening, Emperor Diocletian. He saw that Rome had become too vast, too divided, too strained to survive as one. So he did the unthinkable. He split it in two. The Eastern Empire, with its wealth, its cities, its trade, would be ruled from Byzantium. The Western Empire, with its farms, its aging roads, its proud but weary heart, would remain in Rome. Two emperors, two courts, two worlds. One name. For a time this brought stability. But in truth it was not healing. It was survival. The empire had not been saved. It had only been slowed, and as centuries turned, another shift began, one that would change not only Rome but all of history. It began quietly. In the shadows of persecution, a faith spreading among slaves, outcasts, and soldiers. A faith that spoke not of conquest, but of compassion. Christianity. When Emperor Constantine rose to power, he saw its power not as a threat, but as destiny. He legalized the faith, embraced it, and built a new city in its honor, Constantinople, the city of Constantine. On the shores of the Bosporus, a new Rome was born, radiant and strong. This was the true turning point, and not of stone but of spirit. The empire that had once worshipped 1,000 gods now turned toward one. The temples of Jupiter and Mars gave way to churches and crosses. The empire of the sword became the empire of faith. For a brief, brilliant moment, Rome was whole again. Constantine's vision shone across continents, the idea that power could endure through belief rather than blood. But with his death, the fragile balance shattered once more. The East grew stronger, richer, wiser, protected by the great walls of Constantinople. The West grew weaker, haunted by its own glory, burdened by memory. Barbarians pressed at the borders, Goths, Vandals, Huns, tribes hungry for land, for gold, for vengeance. Rome, once invincible, now struggled to defend itself. Its legions, once feared, were scattered shadows of what they had been. Its leaders squabbled while the enemy gathered at the gates, and yet even as the darkness crept closer, the Roman spirit did not fade. In every city, people still called themselves citizens of Rome. In every law, every ritual, every monument, the old pride lingered. The dream refused to die. The true tragedy of Rome was not its fall. It was its forgetting of what made it rise. Where once they built for centuries, they now built for comfort. Where once they lived for duty, they now live for distraction. And yet, even as the world shifted, Rome's influence deepened, spreading silently through time itself, because ideas, once born, never truly end. When the Western Empire finally fell in 476 AD, it did not vanish. Its stones crumbled, but its soul scattered into kingdoms, into faiths, into the languages and laws that still govern us today. The Eastern Empire, Byzantium, carried its torch for another 1,000 years. And through it all, the name Rome remained sacred, whispered, remembered, reborn. So when we speak of the turning point, of the moment when power began to fade and memory began to grow, we are not speaking of a fall, but of a transformation. The Roman Empire did not die in battle. It evolved. It moved from the sword to the word, from marble to faith, from empire to eternity, and perhaps in that quiet shift, from power to purpose, from rule to remembrance, Rome found something even greater than conquest. It found immortality, and as the echoes of ancient Rome fade into silence, take a deep breath. Let the story rest somewhere quiet in your mind, among the ruins, beneath the stars, beside the soft murmur of history that never truly ends. If this journey helped you drift a little deeper, if it eased your thoughts, or simply reminded you that even empires rise and fall gently with time, then stay a while. There are more stories like this, stories that whisper through the centuries, stories that ask for nothing but your imagination. So when you wake, or whenever you wish to wander again through the echoes of history. Remember to subscribe, to like, and to join this small corner of calm where the past speaks softly because the world rushes fast. But here, you can always return. To quiet stories, to forgotten worlds, to the gentle rhythm of time itself. Sleep well, traveler. Rome may rest, but history never sleeps.